Good afternoon, students. A Letter to God by Gregorio Lopez Futzen, a Mexican writer, Gregorio Lopez Fuentes, a Mexican writer who had written this story, and we started it the last week. Today we are going to conclude this, but before we conclude, let us just recapitulate and summarize what we have done last year. Since a Mexican writer, so the background of the story is Mexican. It is a village somewhere in Mexico, in the valley, where there was a single house, a solitary house, owned by the farmer, who is the protagonist of the story. The farmer is Lencho. Lencho's crop was ready, and he was very happy that soon it would be harvested. He was only waiting for a little downpour that would make it easy for him to harvest his crop. Then he would sell it in the market, and he is going to earn a lot of money. He had been observing the sky since morning. By the end of the day, it did start raining. He was very happy. But soon that happiness had turned into gloom and sadness because heavy rainfall had turned into the hailstorm. As long as it had been raining, he was very happy. Each and every drop of rain appeared to him like a pearl of rain, like the new coins, right? Why new coins? Because he was going to get a lot of money. And the flowers on his field, flowers on his crop, they were appearing like pearls. He was so happy to see this. But soon it had turned into nightmare when all the crops was destroyed by the hailstorm. Not a single crop was left. It was completely destroyed. Now Lencho was very sad, very unhappy. He was very helpless. What to do? What would he do the whole year? His family would starve. They would die of hunger. You see that what happens when in the time of crisis, we do not find any other hope, then we think of God. Then we remember him. So did Lencho. He remembered God because he had heard and he had belief also in God, that God is everywhere. He can see everything. God would definitely help him. So he should write a letter to God. Have you ever heard that somebody is writing a letter to God and the letter reaching God? He is writing whether it reaches God or not. But the thing here is that it was his firm belief in God. It was his strong faith in God that made him write a letter. He went to the post office. He was a bit educated. He went to the post office. He wrote a letter to God. He closed the envelope and there he wrote to God. And in this way, the address was this much only. And he dropped it in the mailbox. Now, after he at the post office, he placed a stamp on the letter and dropped it into the mailbox. This is page number 5 that you can see on the screen. Towards the end of this page, we are going to continue from. Please see here. One of the employees who was a postman and also helped at the post office went to his boss laughing heartily and showed him the letter to God. One of the employees at the post office, one of the staff at the post office, he was a postman also. Maybe he must have been told to collect all the mail, all the post from the mailbox. So when he gathered all the mail, he collected all the letters and he brought these to the post office, brought these to his boss. Of course, the postmaster is the boss of all these employees. He came to the postmaster and he started laughing heartily. And he showed him this letter. Look at this letter. Somebody has written a letter to God. Never in his career as a postman had he known that address. He said that I am not familiar with this address. Never in his life he had seen this address. And the postmaster, the writer is describing the postmaster now. The postmaster, a fat, amiable meaning very pleasant, very friendly. The postmaster, a fat, amiable fellow, also broke out laughing. The postmaster also started laughing. He broke out laughing. He also started laughing when he saw this letter. But almost immediately, he turned serious. He started laughing, but soon at the same time, at once, he became serious. Why? And tapping the letter on his desk commented, "What faith! I wish I had the faith of the man who wrote this letter. Starting up a correspondence with God." The man, he turned serious because he was surprised. The postmaster turned serious because he was surprised. He tapped the letter on his desk and he commented, he stated, he remarked, "What a faith!" He praised Lencho for his faith in God. What a faith that Lencho, he did not know who Lencho was. But he said, what a faith, meaning Lencho had so much faith in God. I wish I had the faith of the man who wrote this letter. What it means that the postmaster means to say that he did not have that much faith. He did not have as much faith in God as the man who had written this letter had. So he wished that he should also have got that faith in God. Starting up a correspondence with God. How strong his faith in God is. That he believes in the existence of God. Now do you understand why he has written a letter to God? Because his faith in God was so strong that he believed that God existed. He believed in the very much existence of God. And that's why the letter he chose as a medium to have a correspondence, meaning to communicate with God, to connect with God, to contact with God, to interact with God, and to convey his feelings or to share his sorrows with the God. So, in order not to shake the writer's faith in God, the postmaster came up with an idea: answer the letter. In order not to shake the writer's faith in God, the postmaster seems to be a very kind man, a gentleman, right? So what he did, he never wanted to shake the writer's faith in God. He never wanted to stir. He never wanted to make him disbelieve the existence of God. In order to keep his faith intact in God, what he thought of an idea that he should answer the letter. Now, letter has been written to the God, but the postmaster will be answering the letter. Do you think that Lencho will believe? Lencho will accept it? Let us see how the postmaster sends a reply. But when he opened it, it was evident that to answer it, he needed something more than goodwill, ink, and paper. But he stuck to his resolution. He asked for money from his employees. He himself gave part of his salary, and several friends of his were obliged to give something for an act of charity. In that very letter, if you remember, in that very letter, Lancho had asked for the money. Lenchu had asked for the money. He had asked for the pesos. Pesos is the Mexican currency. So what he thought, how to write. In order to write this letter, it was evident that to answer it, he needed something more than goodwill. He knew that first thing is that he needed to have a goodwill. He needed to have a good intent to write that letter. But more than that, he needed ink, ink and paper also he would get it, he knew. But more than that, what he needed, he stuck to his resolution. How to make him believe, this was very important. He stuck to his resolution. Resolution is determination. The postmaster has determined to help the writer of this letter. So what he did, because Lencho had asked for the money in that letter to God, so he asked his employees, he asked his staff members to contribute some money for a good cause. He started asking the people to give some money. He himself gave part of his salary. He also gave some part of his salary. And several friends of his were obliged to give something for an act of charity. Now, what is it? This is an act of charity to help one. The postmaster was not only kind and benevolent, but he was very understanding. He could understand that the writer of the letter really needed money. He wanted help. That's why he must be so helpless. That's why he had written this letter to God. So what he did, he had collected money from his employees who had given something or the other as an act of charity. They also wanted to contribute to this act of charity and wanted to help the person who had written this letter. Just at the behest of the postmaster, they all contributed. The postmaster also contributed. He collected the money. It was impossible for him to gather together the 100 pesos. So he was able to send the farmer only a little more than half. Lancho had asked for 100 pesos. The postmaster made an effort, tried his best, but could not gather 100 pesos. Whatever he could collect, it was, of course, not 100, but little more than half of the money he wanted or he had asked for. He put the money in an envelope addressed to Lancho and with it a letter containing only a single word as a signature, God. The money he had collected from his employees, he put it in the envelope and he addressed it to Lancho and it was signed there on the envelope for signature. He had written one single word, God. Why did he do so? Because he never wanted to break Lancho's heart. He never wanted to disappoint him. He never wanted to shake his belief. He never wanted that the man should stop believing in the existence of God. So when the letter reaches and the money reaches him, Lancho will think as if God has sent him the money. Isn't it a noble cause? Isn't it a charity? Yes, definitely. Charity is when you, with whatever the resources you have, using those very resources, when you go out to help one, it is called charity. The following Sunday, Lancho came a bit earlier than usual to ask if there was a letter for him. The next Sunday, Lancho came to the post office. And then he asked the postmaster if there was a letter for him. It was the postman himself who handed the letter to him, while the postmaster, experiencing the contentment of a man who has performed a good deed, looked on from his office. The postman gave that letter to Lancho. While the postman gave that letter to Lancho, where was the postmaster? He was inside the post office. He had just been watching Lancho from his office. And what he understood, what he found, a man who has performed a good deed, experiencing the contentment of a man. Now, who is this man? The postmaster. The postmaster, the one who was so content because he has done a good job, as he had tried to help someone. He had been observing Lancho from his office. Now, while observing what he found, Lancho showed not the slightest surprise on seeing the money. Lancho found the envelope containing money. He was not looking surprised at all. Why? Because he was expecting this money. Because he had firm belief in God, that he had written a letter to God asking for the money, and God would definitely send him money. So he was not looking surprised. Such was his confidence, but he became angry when he counted the money. He was very confident, he was very sure that he would get the money. So he was not surprised to find the money, but soon he became angry because he opened the envelope, he took out the money, and he started counting the money. You remember he had asked for 100 pesos, but they were not 100 pesos. Whatever the amount, I think one should know something is better than nothing. But Lancho was angry. God could not have made a mistake, nor could he have denied Lancho what he had requested. He did not believe that God has sent this much money because it was a sender's signatures were that of God, but he was sure that God could not make this mistake. This is what was the conflict going on in his state, in his mind. This was his state of mind. He was thinking, I asked for 100 pesos, and God has not sent me 100 pesos, little more than half. But God cannot make a mistake. Nor could he have denied. And when I requested God, God would not say no to my request. Such was the belief, such was the faith in God. Immediately, Lancho went up to the window to ask for paper and ink. What is it? What do you think he is going to do? When he is asking for paper and ink, I think he is going to write another letter. Right? He went up to the window and asked for the paper and ink. On the public writing table, you must have seen in the post office, in the bank, when you go, you will find one public writing table nearby the reception, right? This is the public writing table where the people, whatever the kind of form or paper they carry, if they have to fill it, they just put it there and fill comfortably, right? So on the public writing table, he started to write. He got the pen and paper and he started writing while putting his paper onto the writing table with much wrinkling of his brow. Wrinkling of his brow is an expression of anger. When do we wrinkle our brow? When we are angry. So he was looking angry while writing on that paper, caused by the effort he had to make to express his ideas. He was kept angry because he had to make an effort to express his anger, to share his anger with God. When he finished, he went to the window to buy a stamp which he licked. Licking is how you lick with your mouth, right? You lick with your mouth and you stick a stamp onto the envelope or paper. So he licked the stamp and then he fixed it on the envelope with a blow of his fist. Fist, what is fist? Fist is when you fold your hands. जैसे एक मुक्का जैसे आप बंद कर लेते हैं ना उसको. So that is called fist. The moment the letter fell into the mailbox, the postmaster went to open it. After dropping his letter into the mailbox, Lencho went back home. Postmaster instantly went to the mailbox. He took out Lencho's letter to find what he has written. It said, God, of the money that I asked for, only 70 pesos reached me. Send me the rest, since I need it very much. He is pleading the God. He is pleading the God that he had not got all money, he had not got 100 pesos as he had requested for. He got only 70 pesos. He said, please, the remaining part of money also, please send me because I need it urgently. But don't send it to me through the mail because the post office employees are a bunch of crooks. Crooks, thieves, crooks, dishonest people. And then he is requesting the God not to send that money through the mailbox, through the post, because the post office employees, the staff in the post office, they are a bunch of crooks. They are all dishonest. Now, the question here is that you as a reader know very well what? That all the employees, they had been so kind, so benevolent, that they all had collected the money. And in fact, the postmaster has given part of his salary so that he could make it 100. 100 he couldn't make, but whatever he could collect, he had sent it to Lencho. And Lencho, without knowing, he considers them crooks. Because the envelope, when he gets, he finds 70 pesos. This much only the postmaster could collect. But it was a strong belief. It was a strong belief in God that did not allow him to trust, to have faith in the employees of the post office. He did have a faith in God, but he didn't have faith in the other human beings. He did believe God, but he didn't believe the employees of the post office who had actually been God to him, those who had collected the money and tried to help him. He had mistaken. He thought that God might have sent 100 pesos, but these employees at the post office, these staff members at the post office, they must have stolen or they must have taken out some money and kept with themselves. What does it suggest? We can call Lencho innocent. Isn't it? It was his innocence. It was his faith in God. Right? But this is something very strange, that a man can believe in God, but a man cannot believe another man. So this is the conflict between the man and man. Right? The last line, when he says, don't send it to me through the mail because the post office employees are a bunch of crooks children. This is very ironical situation. Irony is when something happens different from your expectations. When there is a difference between the reality and something which is expected. right? Here he must have thought who gave the money. Instead, we thought he would be very grateful to the postmaster and the postman, asking them how the God could send the money. But he had no such queries. In fact, those very people who helped him, he considered them crooks, right? So this is the end of the story, right? Now we will discuss the questions which are given in your text here. First of all, thinking about the text, right? Now see the first question. Yes. Who does Lancho have complete faith in? Of course, we would say that he has complete faith in God. Here, one thing I would like to tell you, children, please take care. And now look at the question, the tense of the question. The tense of the question is the present tense. If the question is in the present tense, your answer would also be in the present tense. Usually the children make a mistake. They don't see the tense used in the question. Sometimes the tense used in the question is present tense, but they give answer in past. Sometimes the question given is in the past tense, but they give answer in present tense. So here you can lose marks. So please take care, right? All right. Now here the question is, who does he have complete faith in? Yes, Lancho has complete faith in God. As he has been taught that God knows everything, God is present everywhere, and he helps us whenever we have any problem. Now you will just go through the book, just see your book, and you will get to know how there are the sentences which tell you this. For example, here is the statement, but in the hearts of all who lived in that solitary house, in the middle of the valley, there was a single hope, help from God. That depicts his faith in God. He was completely helpless because he had lost everything. He had lost his crops completely, as they were completely destroyed. He could not think of anything, but of course he could think of God, that God would help him. Another example is, at one place, all through the night, Lancho thought only of his one hope, the help of God, whose eyes, as he had been instructed, see everything, even what is deep in one's conscience. There is another example when he posts a letter to the God, and then he closes the envelope, and on the envelope he writes the address God. God could not have made a mistake. Towards the end of the story, he says, God could not have made a mistake, nor could he have denied Lancho what he had requested. This also depicts his faith in God. All right. Now, let's go to the next question. Why does the postmaster send money to Lancho? Postmaster sends money to Lancho because he was impressed. Because he was impressed to see, he was impressed and surprised to find Lancho's faith in God. He could not believe that the man had such a strong faith in God, so he never wanted to shake his faith. He never wanted that he should start disbelieving God. He wanted his faith to be intact. Why does he sign the letter God on the envelope? He signs the letter with the word God, so that, again the same, that Lancho's faith is not shaken. Right? Okay. Did Lancho try to find out who had sent the money to whom? No, he did not try to find out who had sent the money to him, because he never suspected God. He never suspected the presence of God. He had firm belief in the presence of presence of God, in the existence of God. He had complete faith in it. He could not believe that it could be somebody else in place of God to send him money. His faith in God was so strong, so firm, that he had that only God had sent him the money, right? That's why he does not try to find out who sent him the money. Yes. Now the next question is, who does Lenshu think has taken the rest of the money? Lenshu thinks that the postmaster and his staff or his employees, they have taken the rest of the money, as he had requested the God to send him 100 pesos. But the letter contained only 70 pesos. So he thought that God could not make a mistake. So the money had been taken out, or money had been stolen by these people. Now, what is the irony in the situation? I just discussed with you towards the end, right? The irony is that Lenshu suspects those people who helped him and tried to keep his faith intact. Those who tried to keep his faith alive, he suspected those very people. And God, about whose existence there is no certainty, he never suspected. Right? Okay. Yes. Now let's go to the next. Yes. Are there people like Lenshu in the real world? Yes. We have the people like Lenshu in the real world too. It is impossible to find the people or a person like Lenshu, as he does not question. He does not question the existence of God, but he just raises a question mark from those very people who had helped him. Maybe he is innocent. It is his faith in God. Of course, he has more faith in God, right? That's why he thought that the other people, they might have done it. Now, why it is so? Don't you think it was perhaps sometimes such people, they are selfish. They are selfish, so they don't think that God can ever do it. They just try, they never try to find out that the humans can also be kind. But just at the first instance only, they find humans only as suspicious characters. Sometimes such people are greedy also. Yes, greedy. You see, he asked for 100 pesos, isn't it? He asked for 100 pesos. He got 70. He never thanked God for that. He had not been grateful to God for whatever he could get. He should have thought at least something is better than nothing. He is not empty-handed. He asked God for 100 pesos, at least he is getting 70. And don't you think that if he had believed, if he had accepted those 70 pesos happily, perhaps the postmaster and his employees, they would have collected the remaining amount also. If he had expressed gratitude to God for that, perhaps the postmaster and his employees, they would have collected the other 30 pesos also and sent to him. But he lacked such qualities. Anyway, we would definitely call him greedy and selfish, right? And we would also call him unquestioning and ungrateful, right? Okay. Now, the next question is, there are two kinds of conflicts in the story, between humans and nature and between humans themselves. How are these conflicts illustrated? Just towards the end of the story, I had discussed with you. Let us first talk about the conflict between the humans and nature. The conflict between humans and nature has been illustrated in the story in the form of destruction of his crops by the hailstorm. Lanshu was expecting a good rain, to have a good harvest, as that was the only hope he had for his earning. He worked hard, but nature turned violent and destroyed everything. So here is the conflict between the human and nature. Now the conflict between human and humans, towards the end of the story, humans themselves, in the form of postmaster, postman, and other employees in the post office, they try to reach out, they try to give a helping hand to Lencho by collecting money for him, by putting it in the envelope. Not only that they wanted to give him a financial help, they also wanted to keep his faith alive. But this man in return had turned out to be ungrateful. He called them a bunch of crooks. So their benevolence, don't you think that their benevolence, their kindness, it had been abused by Lancho? He trusts God, whose existence is not known, but he does not trust the humans, those who are there to help him. So this is the conflict between human and human. All right, children? Okay. Now, remaining exercises, you will attempt on your own. An important thing is that the character of Lenshu is very important. At the same time, the character of the postmaster is also important. The postmaster, who himself had been a believer in God, but had been very kind and benevolent, who could understand his problem, who could understand his feelings, and he took no time in making an effort to help Lancho. However, Lancho turned out to be ungrateful to him. Right? With this, we end this lesson here. The lesson is finished. Goodbye. Thank you.